Want to feel happy without spending a single dime? Yes, it is possible. None of us are Alexander the Great, needing to conquer a new country every day. However, it is never a good feeling to go to bed feeling defeated, ending the day with a sense that it did not go well. On average, our days end with similar feelings. Perhaps we had a fight with someone unimportant, did not receive a payment, or maybe our mobile batteries are dying too quickly. If we go to bed with a bitter taste in our mouth, we will eventually develop a sense of inferiority and our trust in life will slowly diminish. We will then feel unnecessarily tired throughout the day, losing the joy of doing work. Just a few days ago, I was speaking to world's happiness expert Professor Meike Bartels. Meike is a pioneer in positive psychology research based in the Netherlands. Before we delve into European insights, let's see what happens in our day-to-day life. Take an example. Suppose you invited 10 of us to your home for dinner. 9 of us told you that dinner was fantastic, but one person slightly mentioned that the curry could have used a bit more salt. That's it. You forget the praise from 9 people and fixate on that single person who said the salt could have been better. Throughout the rest of the evening and when going to the bed, you will keep thinking you should have been more careful about the salt or wonder why they said it was a bit less. That single remark will overshadow the praise of 9 other people. Our minds are designed in such a way that from birth we focus on negative aspects much more than positive things in life. This is called a negative bias. There are many debates on whether this negative bias is good or bad. Some researchers say that negative bias is very important to our improvement, that without it, we would not be able to improve ourselves. They are quite right. This negative bias once saved our lives and continue to do so today. Back in the caveman days, family members who thought they could befriend a visiting tiger all died. Those who stayed inside the cave for 2 days, fearing the tiger would return, survived. We are the descendants of those who feared the tiger and stayed inside the cave. Therefore, our minds are trained to think about what could go wrong and what could be extremely bad about a particular wrong thing. Yes, we keep cultivating the bad things in life. However, for a conscientious person, negative bias has plenty of side effects. Today, we focus on the side effects of negative bias and try to find ways to improve our lives by controlling our natural negative bias. If we keep suffering from negative bias, then from failure to failure, our lives will become miserable. Our days are filled with multiple failures, but success is standing up from the failure once more. As humankind, we are very powerful. Otherwise, we would not have reigned over this hostile earth for millions of years. However, winning can only be achieved if you learn how to win. And there are skills to learn winning that schools and colleges won't teach you. So, you have to learn yourself how to win with the help of positive psychology. Imagine a little toddler who smiles all the time, particularly without any reason. Once puberty comes, the smile disappears. The brain circuitry becomes very complex under the influence of environment and hormones. Our lives become more and more complex. The same toddler who used to laugh without any reason becomes a victim of this negative bias. However, researchers like Meike Bartels have found ways and strategies to checkmate this unnecessary negative bias in our mind. This is known as positive psychology. The aim of positive psychology research is to find out how we can stay happy and feel better. For thousands of years, we had the wrong ideas about how to feel happy. We thought possessing costly things like gems, jewels, and maybe a fancy BMW car will make us happy. Sadly, this strategy fails. After spending millions and billions of dollars, people could not buy happiness. Then, in 1978, Brickman researched and discovered a very important finding. In his groundbreaking research, Brickman proved that after winning lottery, people became more unhappy. At that time, no one believed Brickman's research and findings, not even scientists. However, since then, Brickman's research has probably been repeated hundreds of times. Every time, the result came out to be similar. This time, scientists and humankind had to believe that happiness does not come from possession or becoming rich. From that time, the concept of positive psychology started. The famous twin register research in Minnesota, USA proved that our happiness is controlled by genetic factors, the genes we inherit from our parents and grandparents. That means, yes, if my father was an unhappy person, then there are good chances that I will be unhappy too when I reach at his age. If my mother threw tantrum at all the time, I might show tantrums at my partner just like her when I reach her age. But we must not forget the rest 52%. The majority, that is 52%, is in our control. How we can control this 52% contributor for our happiness? Number one, with our lifestyle. Number two, with our mental outlook that we can create and nourish by reading good books and by mixing with good people, etc. Number three, yes, by avoiding negative bias deliberately. But before we dive into how to control negative bias, let's recap what we have discussed. Happiness has two parts. 48% of it is controlled by our genetic factors, meaning what nature has given to us. The remaining 52% is controlled by how we look after our physical and mental health, how we nurture ourselves. This part is in our control. We have been to the moon several decades ago, and now we have sent Voyager, which has been sending signals for over 3 decades. We have triumphed and improved scientific research manifold. However, the area that remains unconquered is our mind. We hardly know how our mind works. However, with this little bit of research, humankind and scientists are trying to find out how predictable our mind can be, how the happiness hormones serotonin and dopamine can be regulated with our little steps in day-to-day life so that we can become happier eventually. Out of these control mechanisms, one thing you can do every night is to write down 3 good things that happened to you today. And you have to write them down in bold letters in your small private diary. Just remembering them is not enough. This is known as a happiness journal. If kept over many weeks and months, this happiness journal will eventually reduce and perhaps abolish our negative bias. It will make us happy. This practice, though easily said, is difficult to follow. Why? Suppose you leave home in Tollygunj today to go to your office in Esplanade. You had your office day and then returned home after buying few fruits and bananas. How did your day go? Pretty bad, isn't it? While leaving home, you had a fallout with the Uber taxi driver who did not arrive at the right time. Then, in the tube or metro, the crowd was so heavy that you almost lost the will to leave. The air conditioning in the metro didn't work. As you came out of the tube station in Esplanade, a sudden untimely shower drenched you from top to bottom. As you ran the Esplanade footpath to your office, you glimpsed the restaurant where you had your first Kashmiri pulao with your ex. After you reached the office, you found your boss, who is always so unhappy. His lower teeth are always exposed, and he keeps saying you could not do that work well. Your colleagues are endlessly politicking against you, but you still have to smile at them. The most inefficient employee is getting twice your salary because they are close to your boss. You, being more efficient, get much less. Once you come back home, you realize that with the fruit, you were supposed to bring a can of milk, but you forgot. So, if you think about your day, most things didn't go very well. However, you have to turn the game around. Quite deliberately, after dinner, you have to start writing in your own private diary, that is journal, not a lot, just 3 words or 3 lines. What went well today? Well, if you cannot find anything, I will give you first 2. Number 1, you are still alive. That means out of the 150,000 people who did not see the sunrise today, whose lives ended yesterday, you are better off than them. And number 2, you can see with your own eyes. That means you are better off than the 40 million people in the world who are hard of seeing, right? You now believe that you are better. But when you write those things, your mind will start to think differently. While you were having the short ride in Uber, you saw a corner shop selling fresh flowers, lovely roses. At that crowded metro station, you glimpsed at an old friend and smiled at her. And of course, today's office lunch was not that bad. It was rather tasty. And yes, today in the office, you had the initial blueprint of your next holiday to Lahul Spiti. Gradually, all those so-called obscure happy moments will come to mind. And you will write them down, just three things. Why three things? I don't know. Meike said three things, so I am saying three things. But you have to write these positive things just before going to bed. You might forget for the first 70 days. So remind yourself by setting an alarm on your mobile. But after 70 days, your brain will remember on its own. Why 70? If you want to know, write it down below. And I will come back with the answer in another research. How Meike Bartels found out about this issue, I will detail in a blog post that will be published in Substack in future. So if you want to hear about this, please go and subscribe to our Substack blog. The link is in the description. Whoever I suggested this has been benefited immensely from this little exercise. However, you will experience three obstacles at this point. Number one, you will doubt the purpose of doing this happiness journal. Number two, you will forget to write in this happiness journal for the first few days. Number three, you will worry about your privacy if your happiness journal falls into someone else's hand. Well, if you overcome these three obstacles, a new dawn is waiting for you with a lot of gifts at its hand. Just writing for a few days or not let you reap the benefits. However, if you keep writing for weeks and months, eventually your brain will feel better and your outlook on life will change. You will tend to ignore office politics and start looking at the brighter side of the life. You will feel empowered to avoid toxic and judgmental people around you. In your own mind, you will go to a place where everything is happy, where you can breathe oxygen with your lung full. Failure and disappointments are an integral part of our life. Going beyond that is called happiness. One important tip, last but not the least, is that you have to keep writing, because if you keep writing, those written words will stimulate a particular center of the brain known as Broca's area. If you stimulate Broca's area, the effect of this writing will be better. So just thinking and imagining what went well is not helpful. You have to write it down and see all those written words with your own eyes to get the best benefit. That's all today. See you soon over another video research. Bye for now.